Hey there, welcome to Higher Love Letters. I am Rachel, back with another beautiful channeled message. Excuse my throat. I had laryngitis and a viral infection and pneumonia, so I've been not posting for a while. When I get sick, it takes me out for a while, but this is the best I can do with my voice. Bear with me here. This was a really complex message and probably going to be kind of lengthy. It is for an individual who I believe is a female body and a feminine energy in a female body who's actually already passed away, and the events of her death are somewhat of a mystery, but speculation is that that she died of abuse. Now it seems to me that the abuser never really got punished for his crimes against her, but she did pass away from abuse. And it is her healing journey in her afterlife, where her soul has ventured to, in the healing place. I can only speculate what that is. I do believe the soul really never ends. The energy never ends, just like how you can love somebody even from a distance. Energy really can never be destroyed. It can only be transmuted or healed, and that is what is coming through in this beautiful message. If you would like a transcribed copy of this message, I can get that over to you. Or if you'd like a personal channeled message from your spiritual team, from an estranged or passed on loved one, or even from your own higher self, you can reach me for either of those at the Zen Zone at mail.com. So the Zen Zone at mail.com, not Gmail. So this person is coming through with a message, and it's really it's meant for all of us to heal and to recognize red flags and to stand up in truth and integrity and confidence and self-worth and self-esteem. So if you've loved somebody who's passed away from an abuser, this may be something that will resonate with you. Or if you are a person who feels they may be in an abusive relationship, I do coaching as well, but I'm definitely not an expert on it. This is more a healing message. And maybe a wake-up call for all of us to recognize what healthy love is. Sorry, I haven't done a video in a really long time. And then my little guy has been really sick too, so I've had a rough few months, but hoping to get back into this. But my nose is acting up, and that usually happens when energy is being cleared. So this if you are in a place of self-reflection and trying to really be gentle with yourself and have some self-care routines, and are feeling like you're wanting to set more boundaries or speak up for yourself, and you're trying to heal some heartbreak stuff or confidence issues, this could pertain to you if you feel like you've had toxic relationships or traumatic upbringings, things like that, destructive relationships that's been draining you. This may also apply to you. So, well, 3 minutes in. Okay, so this, like I said, I feel this soul has learned the lessons that they needed to learn, that they may not have been able to understand in their lifetime, but in their journey afterwards, their soul did the healing needed and got the clarity it needed to be able to bring this message forth. And I do believe that I am just a channel for this. I just am open to receive messages from a higher place, higher love, and self-love is really coming through in this very, very strongly. Self-worth, self-love. And I channeled some other little side support things. YouTube has a lot of great free meditations. One that came through was the channel Great Meditation. I think her name is Allie. She's got a beautiful voice and she does a lot of guided meditations. And the one that it's only 5 minutes that I think would really pertain and tie into this is the one that is titled Your Life Has Led You Here for a Reason. So this soul is definitely seeing how the events of her life, the traumas she's faced, choices that she's made, people that she's met has kind of led her on this healing journey. Our soul wants to evolve and grow, and this individual has learned the lessons not in their physical life, but in the afterlife healing, or if they've had another they're still connected with in another time frame. Regardless of where, I didn't really get clear how this person gained this clarity, but their soul is evolved and is here for a message. And that guided meditation suggests everything you've been through leading you back to wholeness. So every lesson that we go through, every person that we meet, as long as we allow ourselves to learn, we can kind of evolve and grow and upgrade ourselves, our situation. Some choose to stay stuck, and it is a lot of work to heal. It is a lot of work to go through the things that we go through too, right? Like our traumas, the situations we face, those are hard too, the challenges of life. But and then recognizing toxic patterns maybe, or unhealthy patterns, and then changing, that's also hard. So some people choose to stay in their hard. There's no judgment here, not negative or positive. It's just important for all of us to really self-reflect and ask ourselves, where we might be making decisions out of fear. And fear, we learned fear. We're not born into fear. We are born as a creation of the divine, meant to be in love and joy and peace, but we learn fear. We have fear passed on to us through generational traumas or our own traumas, right? And we often act out of a place of fear or attract things to us in a lower vibrational energy. And I feel like this person did that unknowingly, and it ended up costing her life, actually. Then I thought of a chart I know of, like an unhealthy feminine chart. There's how the feminine energy, which is mostly supposed to be more nurturing, giving, receiving, like aware, emotionally in tune, energetically aligned, where it can get out of balance and become more unhealthy. And it's definitely a lot of the people pleasing, not setting good boundaries, not like having enough respect to walk away when you've been disrespected, over giving, taking on the masculine role, things like that. So there was a cool chart that I thought of. So maybe you could Google unhealthy feminine traits, and you'll probably get a lot of options for that. But I got a lot of back pain in my mid back, towards the side of my back, and I did have to look up like what those, I know all the neck and the low back and the shoulders, things like that can all mean emotional things. I couldn't really remember what the mid back was. I deal with a lot of, when I do Reiki for people, I usually get a lot of like mid upper back pain, which is usually grief, but the mid I forgot, so I had to look that up. But guilt, stuck in the past, insecurities, powerlessness, so like a get off my back kind of a feeling. And then I got really nauseous. So the person might have been dealing with the inability to process their emotions or stomach the circumstances. So if you are in that place, this is a message for those of us who are here, who have a chance to course correct, to self-reflect, and to look at our life and make, changes as needed and pivot as needed. So this is meant to bring maybe a little wake-up call for some of us who are maybe also having a tough time stomaching our situations, our surroundings. I kind of felt like a real strong need during this channeling to kind of like get cozy, like get like a cozy knit blanket. That's my favorite. And then I got the chills, and that can sometimes mean spirit with us or passing through. So and then my third eye just started going bonkers. So I feel like if you're resonating with this or feel like this could apply to you're really getting a lot of deeper insight, and your third eye possibly just deeper knowledge, seeing things clearly. Your intuition's really kicking in, but it's some of the stuff is causing you to be you have some confidence issues in your belly, digestive problems. You're trying to heal some of our heartbreak and betrayal, loss, things like that. So a lot of different chakras are being affected right now. The ones strongest in this reading were the third eye is basically kind of coming on board here, but it's the throat chakra, the heart chakra, and right here, the solar plexus, and through the axis of the third eye and the intuition and really seeing things clearly from a higher place. So when my third eye started going bonkers, I just heard breathe in the breath of God. I feel like that is what has allowed this person to see and really fully heal themselves at a deep soul level, and to get back to wholeness within the self by really kind of looking out, stop looking outside of their self for validation, and for the people around them to bring them hope and healing, but to look within. And we all have the ability to tap into the breath of God and our own intuition, and our higher selves, and our spirit team is always trying to guide us and lead us. At some point in here, oh yeah, that's in the next page, but I'll mention it now. I thought to myself, this is really hard to believe that a passed on soul has done their healing and coming through with a message. And then just as I was getting self-doubt and questioning this, spirits snapped me out of it and gave me the song Magic, or Have to Believe We Are Magic by Olivia Newton-John. It's an oldie but a goodie. And I just kept hearing, you have to believe we are magic. And that's pretty much the strongest line that came through. I did look it up later, and interestingly enough, some of the other lyrics in that I think are meant to be about a relationship, but what I've taken from it is really how spirit is wanting us to look within and to connect to the spiritual realm, our guides, angels, and our ancestors from a place of love and not fear, and not to look to other people. Other people are human and with their own set of traumas and insecurities and issues projecting onto us oftentimes. So it's best to look within and access our intuition and trust our intuition, because the beginning part of that song, like I said, is meant for a relationship, but I took it as spiritual connection. The part of the song that I wrote down is, come take my hand, you should know me, I've always been on your mind, you know I'll be kind, I'll be guiding you. And then later on, that song came up again in a different part of the channeling. So I don't know if I'm going to be able to really express all of this, but the story is basically about an extraordinarily talented young woman who ends up leaving her home life in France and schooling. She's young, to join a freediving team, and she takes a class basically and ends up on this freediving team, and turns out she's got a lot of raw natural talent and gifts, and it's inspired by the true story, the life of Audrey Mester, who died. And like I said, I'm not going to claim I know the ins and outs of the mysteries of her death, but this movie is based on a true story. Well, she ends up finding a destructive love with her record-holding freediving instructor, and it ends up basically taking her life. Her commitment to him and her faith in him and her lack of self-worth and self-esteem gets her into trouble, and she doesn't learn the lessons soon enough to protect herself and ends up losing her life. But again, like I said, the soul continues to grow and heal. So our physical body isn't the end. That's what I believe. Okay, so their beginning was really intense when she met him and things like that. And really sexually charged, a lot of chemistry. But towards the end, she feels afraid of him. And other people kind of notice his red flag behavior along the way. But even after she knows some of these things, she makes the wrong that she made the wrong choice in love. Even though after she decides to break up with him and she sees some red flags and she becomes afraid of him, she still chose to compete in a dive, which put her life at risk. And she actually believed, because she verbalized it, that she actually had some of the other team had expressed concerns about her going into this really deep dive, the deepest even that the instructor ever did. And even after she was afraid and had these red flags, she said that he would never put me in harm's way, and I'm not doing it for him, I'm doing it for me, which that might have been true, but she believed that he would never do that, right? He would never put me in harm's way. And that can be kind of a self-defense mechanism, wanting to believe that the people that love us could never hurt us in that way. I've experienced something similar to, was a pretty huge your foundation pretty much gets ripped underneath you when you recognize you believed in an illusion that the person that you thought loved you and would protect you the most was actually sabotaging you all along. And it's kind of like the vision I always get of you're in a boat rowing with somebody, you think you're in a team as a couple partners, and all the while you're working so hard and they're drilling holes under the boat and you don't realize it. So that's what ends up happening. This wasn't just a jerk of a guy. He was actually very evil and sinister. But of course, they don't come right out with that all the time, right? And they hide a lot of that. They mask a lot of that. And otherwise, we would run right away. But they hide it. They hide their true selves. And it's through time and awareness and watching behaviors that you really can see somebody's true colors. Sometimes, unfortunately, some people are very good and skilled at manipulation and control. Gaslighting, things like that. So she's realizing, though, it was her mistake, even after she started to know and realized she made the wrong choice in love. There was another guy who really did love her unconditionally, and that she considered going to, but it was too late. The other guy was already really jealous and had so much control over her life and insecure, and decided to sabotage her because of her gifts. Like, it's the movie No Limit. It was in 2022. So No Limit. Sorry, I didn't mention that sooner. She's realizing that she would have been, even though she was so she ended up like breaking all these records in a really short amount of time. Like, she was just a natural. But she realizes it was her mistake to continue to put her safety and well-being in his hands. There was other people on the team who did care for her and protect her, but he was the leader, and she put her life basically in his hands. Doing a deep dive is really dangerous, and like so many safety protocols that need to be met. And he basically, in this movie, I won't give it away, but like sabotages her basically, okay? And she realizes it would have been better off for her removing herself from the team and finding a new way to do the dive with a group of people she trusted, or form a new team with some of the other members. But they also stayed in the toxic dynamic with their boss, being pretty manipulative to even them. And she kept also believing that she couldn't have done these things without him. Like, she couldn't have made it so far without him. But these were gifts that God gave her. She had some kind of really natural ability, like with her lung capacity, to be able to handle these deep dives. Like, no matter how much training these other people did, they were never going to have maybe the skill that she had. And she believed that she couldn't have done it without him. So that's another thing manipulators do. They like you to believe that you're nothing without them. So she did form core beliefs about herself and him. Those subconscious deep beliefs about, like, she was really nothing without him. And I forget what the other one was. I mentioned it already, but anyways, maybe she thought that she couldn't make it without him. But God will never want you to, you could potentially lose your blessings, which is essentially what happened to her if you are in the wrong crowd, if you have the wrong people around you. So if God gave you a gift, or it's diving or writing or teaching or being a nurse or doctor or whatever, singing, he wants you, that gift is not going to flourish fully in a toxic environment. You really can't grow in an environment that's breaking you. And she could have still achieved her dreams in a different way, maybe gone back home. She left home. And she's also realizing she put herself in a very vulnerable situation. Her father had killed himself a while ago in this movie. And again, it doesn't have to be your specific story, but it's just she's realizing her past traumas kind of made her and her mom kind of estranged and like emotionally detached from her mom. So she put herself in a vulnerable position by moving away from her family, her grandfather and her mother, even though there was some tensions there. And she had no money. So she put herself in a vulnerable position by moving out of, across the country with no money, no support system, which abusers love. They target people who are vulnerable. But nobody is going to save you. She's also realizing that you really need to save yourself. And another thing she's realizing is when people show you who they truly are, believe them. There's that famous quote. She may not have died not fully knowing what happened to her, but she finally understands, and she realizes he gaslit her, but she also gaslit her own self, which is like talked herself into some illusions, believed illusions, and they formed core beliefs about her, that she formed core subconscious beliefs. And it's really interesting because our subconscious controls like 95% of our thoughts and actions, and we don't really often understand how deeply rooted some of our beliefs are. So when you have things happen to you, you form core beliefs and they get ingrained in you, you then act out of those subconscious beliefs. All your choices you make, the people that you meet, the choice in jobs and friends, things like that. So like, again, she's realizing too that it started out very toxic and very sexually charged. And then the sex actually ended up bonding her to him even more. Like, the emotional connection can't be denied in sex. There's more than just the act of physical sex happening. There's the intense emotional bond, spiritual ties get created there. So it's really hard to, like, you get intertwined with somebody on a spiritual soul level, and you also get intertwined into their karma, and it can be really hard to break away. So really be careful. This individual is really wanting everybody to just be more careful where they share their sexual energy and their emotional energy. She also opened up to him about her father dying, and then he shared his sob story. And I want to say that because he used his childhood traumas as a way to manipulate, not as a way to share. So I really don't have a lot of respect for how he shared. He used that to bond to her, to get her to feel guilty for any leaving him or questioning him, things like that. That's another great tactic of abusers. So another quote I heard during this channeling was, people say a lot, so watch what they do. So there's a call to all of us from this individual that she's been able to transmute this dark, painful energy into light and sharing it with all of us. And again, I hope to be a voice to the voiceless, that we all need to be better at setting spiritual restraining orders and on people who've disrespected our boundaries emotionally, energetically, physically, sexually, right? And practice the law of detachment to protect our blessings and to protect our light from attack. And I know that sounds really extreme, but we really need to be a lot better at learning how to detach ourselves emotionally, physically, spiritually from people who hurt us. And, a lot of times our upbringing can affect that. Like if you have strong religious beliefs about forgiving and things like that, there's a lot of reasons why we can keep staying. And then love is the biggest one of them, right? When we feel like we love somebody, we don't often understand how people can be so destructive, because that's not our normal. If we're an empathetic, loving person, we can really have a hard time wrapping our mind around that people can be so destructive and not just idiots, but actually evil people, unsafe and destructive people. So, there's people around you that can help you or hurt your success and even sabotage you. And, safe people will have a calm, easy, non-controlling way about them. And not that we can't still learn little things along the way. Good people can still need to learn things, but have a desire to love and protect and keep you safe, right? An unsafe, destructive person will be emotionally and physically destructive, right? Lust does not equal love as well. So like I said, she put herself in an emotional position. She was vulnerable, broke, had no support system. She made excuses for his behavior, overgiving. That's the unhealthy feminine. In the beginning, too, right when she met him, she meets him, they all go to dinner, and he ends up intruding on her in the bathroom, and then they start having sex, really heavy, passionate chemistry sex, right? That she attaches, obviously, probably loving feelings to it, and where he's just using her. They come back to the table as if nothing happened, but everybody can read the room and knows what happened. And a woman says, "You asshole," to the guy, and walks up and walks out. Now, that woman had self-respect. She could read the room. She could feel the vibe. She understood what he had just gotten and done, and maybe it's not the first time. So that was a healthy feminine, recognizing where her energy and her loyalty was no longer being respected, and walked away and detached. I did make note of that. So if you're going to put yourself in a vulnerable position and have no support and money, you really need to be really in tune with yourself to keep yourself street smart and to go off of your intuition and your guides. And in that song again, building your dream has to start now. There's no other road to take, and I'll bring all your dreams alive for you. Now, it's really important not to just let people do that. Some people can come and help build us up, right? But it's really up to our own self and our higher team to help do that. And when our intuition is exploring red flags and giving us signals of danger, or making us, we feel fear or we feel unsafe, those are our intuition and our guides leading us on the right path. And she ignored a lot of that along the way. Like I said, the red flags, lack of empathy. A person that's destructive has a lack of empathy. There's a scene in there where somebody else dies on the team, and everybody's really hurt over it, and he actually fakes sympathy, right? And tells everybody to kind of move on really quickly, and doesn't allow people to really heal and grieve. But they have a temper. There's a scene in there where he flies off the handle about something, and she doesn't see that as a red flag, or she does, but she ignores it, I would say. Gaslighting, tricking you into believing things that aren't real. projecting your own insecurities onto you, right? Inability to take accountability for your actions, blaming other people, making them feel not worthy of anything without you, that typical thing. And then they'll say sorry sometimes, but it's usually without any change behavior, and definitely a lot of control and a lot of force. And like, love does not claim, it simply allows and gives. That is the real beauty of love. Okay, so she definitely ignored a lot of flags in this, so that you may be ignoring a lot of flags, or you know somebody that may be on this situation, or you may not have ever experienced this yet, but hopefully this channeling will come through and you might think of it later on in your life if you meet a destructive person. And even people who like will put you in harm's way and like thinking nothing of it, or like if you disagree with them or question them, they'll get really angry and defensive and threaten to walk away from you and to not love you, to kick you off the team, things like that. And actually there's a scene in there when they're having sex, I probably can't say that, when they're being intimate, and he starts choking her, and it didn't seem like this was a thing they all agreed to, that they really into. He just starts choking her to the point she's like gasping for breath out of it, and maybe there's a heightened sensation there, I'm not sure. But red flag also, you may not know, I have a lot of trauma and abuse training, and I coach and things like that. So people who are capable of choking somebody are more likely capable of murder, statistically, just so you know. So in this case, in this movie, in this scenario, that could have played out here, I'm not going to say, sorry. Yeah, like I just said, that, like if you're going to put yourself in a vulnerable position, you really have to make sure your internal gut instincts are strong, not only in the work that you do outwardly, but the inward work too, like really leading by your instinct. And when you have a knowing that you need to get out, you really need to trust that, and trust that the process, that if you are removed from a situation, or if somebody is removed from you, that doesn't mean your dreams won't come alive. They'll just have to be alive in a different way. And honestly, to the truth be told, like, your blessings really can't come in fully if you're around toxic people. They will sabotage you, period. It doesn't have to be intense like death, but steal from you, betray you, things like that. Like, you need to also have gut instincts around your heart and protect your mind as well as your blessings. Bottom line, do not put your heart and hope in another person until you are sure they deserve you. And she, at the end here, comes through and says, I should have protected my blessings better. I should have protected myself better. I should have considered my mother, who was pleading her to come back. I should have walked away at the first sign of danger. I should have, would have, could have. There's a lot of things that she's realizing. And like I said, the guilt and the shame, this is where that was coming in. The pain I was having in my back, because I was really trying to figure out why is she feeling guilty or shameful, because she didn't really do anything wrong. He was the perpetrator. And, we can feel a lot of guilt and shame for our choices, and how we treat our own self, how we show up for ourselves, how we care for ourselves. And I think I believe that's where the shame and the guilt is coming in, and you're really having a tough time wrapping around, like, these were her choices that she made. We can blame someone else all we want, but there were many moments along the way where she could have chosen differently, and she's regretting that, because nobody's worth losing your life, right? And I'll say again too, like, sometimes it's our own traumas that we face that make us into, vulnerable, emotionally, also needing to cling on. It's really important to have a support system. And when you take away your support system, most people try to replace it with something else, other people, drugs, alcohol, whatever, binge watching TV, eating. So you really need to be careful, like, to watch what you're replacing your support group with. Are you, are like this, if you lose one, you need to gain the other. So are you enriching yourself with, practices to enrich your intuition and your spiritual connection, or making sure you're around safe people that protect you and look out for you, or that you're caring for yourself and your body, things like that. And some people take you for granted because they don't know what you carry inside of you, and other people know what you carry and they target you. And I think that's the biggest message coming through. At 29:09 minutes on the clock there, I could have wrapped that up in this that one sentence, right? Some people take you for granted because they don't know what you carry. They're just ignorant to it, right? And they're not self-aware. And other people know what you carry, and then they target you. Like, this is a story of a woman who was targeted because of her gifts. He knew what she had inside her. He knew she was gifted, and he stole that from her out of his own jealousy, inner rage, insecurities, whatever. And and her unhealed past and traumas and unhealthy feminine ways of behaving got her into that situation, and she didn't walk away when she was being warned by her intuition to walk away. And unfortunately, sometimes it can have minor consequences and sometimes it can have major consequences. So I hope this helped you. This was obviously a heavy message, focusing on abuse. If you are in that situation, physically in harm, you know, really get yourself to safety as you can, if you can. And when you are choosing to leave an abusive partner, it can actually become more dangerous. So do not be naive. Get yourself surrounded by support. You know, there are a lot of resources. Most communities are, you know, states have abuse resources, shelters, things like that, and will instruct you on how properly to leave and counsel you and coach you. That's where I got a lot of my knowledge of, like, I didn't realize there were people like this out there. Like, it's like a thing, you know, narcissistic spectrum is, some are more not harmless, but are less destructive than others. And there's kind of a spectrum, kind of like autism spectrum or whatever. Like, people are just really vile and will stop at nothing, even if it means taking your life. And get yourself to safety and definitely be very self-aware and protect yourself. And if you have to isolate and only surround yourself with a certain amount of people to protect yourself, that's not the worst thing. And to kind of, you know, trust your intuition and pray for your protection and do your spiritual practices. Sage, if you have to, lock your doors, tell people, you know, your loved ones where you are, things like that. Get a support team of people that you can coach you on through abuse, because the journey out is often difficult. And somewhere in here, I also wrote, like, what's more painful, going through the abuses or healing from the abuses, because honestly, the healing journey can be kind of difficult too. It's not just the getting out, it's the healing of the inner wounds that, you know, that allowed you even to be in that position in the first place. But that comes after, right? This person didn't even really get a chance to even get out and get away and do that healing, which I think she would have been able to do had she walked away and found a different way to, you know, drew her dreams. And I'm sure the guy would have forgotten about her if she would have left sooner. They often have to have multiple narcissistic supply, multiple people kind of going at the same time. And if you put up enough of a stink and you walk away and respect yourself, it's often worse for you to keep fighting and trying. And, like, they just use all that as fuel anyway. So she might have been able to save herself, honestly. So, wow, this is heavy. I do offer coaching for this type of thing. Again, like I said, I can channel a private message for you if you just like my vibe. If you want me to transcribe this message for you as best I can, it gets kind of chicken scratch, I can do that as well. And I will never solicit you for a reading. So the only way to reach me is at thezenzone@mail.com. All spelled out THEZENZONE@mail.com. Okay? Have an awesome day. Sorry this was so long. I will talk to you again soon. Bye.